Hi everyone. For those of you who didn't already know, I did just have a baby last year, November 16th. So this is just a very truncated version of my labor and delivery story, since I know that I was driving myself crazy watching a lot of YouTube videos trying to figure out what to expect and what to look out for. Granted, every woman's different, every baby is different, every delivery is different, and this is just my story. So at 36 weeks is when I started having my weekly checkups. And again, the internet is filled with so much information, and you, as a mother, you start reading into these things, and you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta look out for, my mucus plug. And for those moms out there, you know what I'm talking about. So anyways, 36 weeks, regular weekly checkups. So I go to my 36-week checkup, and they checked me. I wasn't even a centimeter dilated yet. Meanwhile, I was reading that a lot of women were already, I don't know, like 2 centimeters dilated. So I was like, okay, this is not gonna happen anytime soon. My mom actually came out to Arizona from California so that she can be with me in case I went into labor. And I do live alone, so she was freaking out, didn't want me to be alone. There's my baby, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, 36 weeks, I wasn't even a centimeter dilated. At my 37-week check, I was 37 weeks. I think it was 1 centimeter already, but I don't think I was effaced. I think I was like 50% effaced. At my 38-week checkup, I was still 1 centimeter dilated, and I was 75% effaced. And that kind of freaked me out, because I was like, well, what is effacement? What does that mean? And it's basically just when your cervix starts softening. So it was already 75% soft. But I was only 1 centimeter dilated. And I stayed that way up until 39 weeks. So that checkup came, and I was still 1 centimeter dilated, 75% effaced for 2 weeks. And so then at that point, I just stopped going on to my tracking apps, and I stopped reading into comments because I was just stressing myself out. I was doing everything to induce labor naturally, and it was just driving me crazy. I was doing the walks, I was doing the pineapple, I was doing the dates, I was doing the raspberry leaf tea, I was doing, I don't know if I said pineapple, but pineapple. It was, yeah, I was bouncing. None of it worked. And my mom was getting anxious, and I was getting anxious, but then I realized, okay, I'm 39 weeks. Like, what's the big deal? Why does everybody want to induce labor naturally? I mean, sure, yeah, I was very big and I was very tired and I wanted the baby out, but babies take their time, and why not have a full-term baby that's 40 weeks? So I was letting my baby just direct when she wanted to come. My original due date was November 15th, which was a Monday. So I was already 40 weeks, and my doctor had scheduled my next appointment, my 40-week checkup, for that Tuesday. And that Tuesday, they were just gonna monitor. So they were gonna put some sensors around my belly just to check her heartbeat, and then just to make sure everything was okay. And we were gonna set my induction date because she didn't want me to go past 41 weeks. So yeah, Monday came, and I was, I think I walked 5 or 6 miles that day, and nothing. And my mom kept telling me, do you feel contractions? Do you feel anything? And up until 40 weeks, I don't think I was feeling any, even like Braxton Hicks or anything. So I didn't know what contractions felt like. And yeah, up until 40 weeks, I didn't feel any pain. Besides my hips and my back, no pain. My feet didn't even really swell. It was just like at the end of a long work day. So Tuesday morning comes around. That's a day after her due date, which was 11/16. Like around 6:12 in the morning, I started feeling what felt like very mild period cramps. And I thought, okay, like this is new, this is different. I haven't felt this before. And so I just started timing them. I'm like, all right, let me time these, because I was feeling the very mild, and I want to say the pain was maybe 3 out of 10. So I'm telling you, it's very mild period cramps. And I was feeling a little bit of like tightening of my stomach. And so I was like, okay, like that, the period cramp plus that, I'm like, it has to be something. So I started timing them, and they were about 2 to 3 minutes apart. And I was so confused. I didn't know if it was a real contraction or not, because it wasn't painful. And I timed it for, I want to say 45 minutes, and they were still 2 to 3 minutes apart consistently for 45 minutes. Then I decided to just get up, start getting ready, got in the shower, and because I just wanted to relax. And in the shower, they started getting a little bit more intense, like where I had to start maybe just taking a deep breath and breathing through the pain. I texted my mom, and I told her, I was like, hey, you know, I think I'm feeling something. And then she's like, okay, I'm gonna go. My dog Jax, she was like, I'm gonna go take him out to walk. You get ready, I'll get the bags. And she was freaking out, because she's like, oh my gosh, what if you have the baby here? I don't want to have the baby here. Granted, I live like 5 minutes from the hospital, so we're gonna be okay. So we pull up to the hospital around 8:30. Oh, before I forget, okay, so I was scheduled to go to my appointment that same day, and I didn't want to go to the hospital because I didn't want to get turned away. I didn't want to have to go to the hospital and expose myself or my mom to, like, you know, COVID. So I wanted to labor at home as much as I could. So I wanted to call my OB's clinic before I went to the hospital. So I tried calling them, but they didn't open until 8. And at that point, when I was thinking about calling, it was barely 7:30. So my contractions started getting a little bit stronger, where I would definitely have to, like, stop what I was doing, hold on to something, and just breathe. And I'm like, okay, I think this is it. So my mom was like, okay, no, Steph, we have to go to the hospital. Let's go. So anyways, back to my point. We rolled up to the hospital around 8:30 in the morning, went to triage and just let them know, hey, you know, I'm having some contractions. And they put me into the triage room. They put the sensors over my belly, and they started monitoring it. When the nurse came to check me, I was already... So I was in the triage room by 9 o'clock, and when she checked to see if I was dilated at all, I was already 5 centimeters dilated. And when they said that I was 5 centimeters dilated, a whole, like, team of nurses and doctors just came through. They started hooking me up to a bunch of things, and they're like, we got to transfer her. They're like, how are you functioning right now? And I was like, at that point, the pain level was maybe 5 out of 10. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, so I don't know if that means anything. 5 out of 10. It's just breathing through it. Breathing really helped. So I got transferred to the labor and delivery room, and at that point it was already 9:30, and the nurse asked me if I wanted the epidural. And at first I was a little bit skeptical. I didn't know if I was going to get the epidural or not. I wasn't opposed to it. I also was open to the idea of trying to do it naturally, but once I started feeling the discomfort of the period cramps, you know, I was just thinking to myself, I wanted it to be a good experience and not really have a traumatic experience. So I said, yes, give me the epidural. So she was going to call the anesthesiologist. So by 10 o'clock, I got the epidural. Very interesting. It didn't hurt when they sucked me on my back, but I didn't know that it was like a basically shot in the dark. Like you have to, like, guide them, because it has to go in straight. If it goes in a little bit crooked at all, it could shift the numbing to one side of your body more than the other side. So once I felt that the needle was straight, they had me lying on one side for half an hour and then switching over to the other side for half an hour. So again, that the numbing could be equally on both sides. And so yeah, that was 10. So then from 10 a.m. through 2 p.m., I was basically, they were just monitoring everything. So I stopped feeling my pain. My contractions were still very consistent, but they weren't strong enough. So they were coming in good waves. They just weren't intense enough. So they put me on Pitocin at noon. So from noon to about 1, they put me on the Pitocin to kind of spike the intensity of the contractions, and it worked. And then they just they took me off of the Pitocin, and then they just let my body contract naturally, and it kept the intensity. So then we were waiting for my doctor. So my doctor was actually in another surgery, but she was also monitoring me. And the nurse, she came in around 2, and she's like, okay, we're gonna start pushing, because I started feeling some pressure. And she's like, you let me know when you start feeling some pressure down there. She's like, I know it's gonna be kind of tricky because you do have the epidural, but you do feel pressure, and it's that like rectal pressure where you feel like you're gonna poop. That's exactly what everyone talks about. That's what it feels like. So I said, okay, I think I feel like I need to push. So yeah, 2 p.m. started pushing, and oh gosh, it was so uncomfortable because the catheter that they put for my IV, they put it right on my right forearm right here. And so I didn't have much range of motion in my wrist. So when the nurse went to guide me to just like tuck my hands behind my leg and like push that way, I couldn't do that. So I felt really stuck. And then on top of that, I couldn't really feel myself pushing. So it was kind of a mess. I was a little frustrated, and there was like wires hanging everywhere because they had to put me on oxygen because baby girl was getting, since she was dehydrated, she was getting a little tired because she was narrowing down into my cervix. And so that was like taking a toll on her. So I had to get oxygen, and it was tough trying to push with an oxygen mask and wires to the IV. It was, I felt very claustrophobic. I don't like being attached to anything. So I think that was probably the most uncomfortable part of labor. Not painful. I wasn't in pain at all. But anyways, so I started pushing, and I was pushing for 1 hour and 13 minutes, and she was born at 3:13 p.m. And after that, everything was just kind of, I don't want to say a blur because I remember exactly what happened, but I just couldn't wait to get disconnected from everything, and like all the machines and the IV. But because I didn't have anything to eat that day or anything to drink, they pumped about 5 IV bags into my system so that my baby can have like supplements. And I couldn't get disconnected from that until the last bag was emptied, and then I used the restroom twice. So it was kind of a process, but that was my labor and delivery story. It wasn't really anything that I thought it was gonna be. I did have to get a midline episiotomy, which is where they cut you. I was gonna tear naturally, but my doctor said, she advised that she cut me so that it could heal better. I mean, it did heal better, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I have never torn naturally, but the stitches did end up healing very nicely. And that healing process is like a whole nother story for another time. I want to keep this one just specific to labor and delivery. And maybe I'll talk about my postpartum recovery, because that was the hardest part of this whole pregnancy journey for me, postpartum. Well, thank you guys for watching. If you're still watching, please like this video, give it a thumbs up.